Hello. So we're continuing. We're in the last few stages of the Sermon on the Mount as we're coming up into Christmas. Oh my goodness, Christmas is coming. But we are still in Matthew 7 of the Sermon on the Mount. And today is Matthew 7, verses 7 to 11. Let me read it to you. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, although you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. And that's verse 12 there. And we're going to get onto that next week. But these verses are all about giving and what God gives to us. And I love these verses. They're simple verses to understand, and yet they're such a necessary reminder for all of us. Quite simply, they're rooted in one truth. God is a good Father. Can you say it with me? God is a good Father. He loves us as his prized possessions, as his heirs, as his children, and he loves us with his perfect and pleasing love. He loves us so much, this great and grand God who created the whole universe, who breathed the stars into existence. He is bothered about all of the intricacies of our lives. And so what does God want? He wants a relationship with us, and he wants us to bring all of this detail of our lives to him. Our wins, our losses, our smiles, our joy, our pain, our hurt, and our needs. God wants all of them. And these verses are used so openly when people are sharing their wants and their needs with God. But these verses aren't just about us bringing our wants and our needs to him. These verses are about us coming into the presence of God too. Seek and you will find. What are you seeking and what are you finding? These verses are about seeking God and finding God, the good Father. He will not hide from you. We might hide from him, but he will not hide from you. How many people want things from God, but they don't want to be in the same room as him? God doesn't want to be a distant God. He doesn't want to post us presents from afar. He is a loving and caring good Father who wants to be present for each of us. And I think one of the first things that people who don't get what they're asking for is that they don't actually want a relationship with the Father. When people are asking for things and they don't get what they want or need, it's actually because they don't actually want a relationship with the Father. They just want stuff from him. God wants to be a good and present Father, and out of his presence with us, out of his proximity to us, he gives us the good gifts that we need. He doesn't want to be a distant God. He wants to be with us. Do we treat God like a vending machine, or do we treat him like a father? Is our prayer life gimme, gimme, gimme? Or is it relational, which includes requests for what we need, but also so much more as well? Our prayer life should always be so much more than gimme, gimme, gimme. Our prayer life should include requests, but should include all of us in that. However, this doesn't mean, though, that we also always get what we ask for. God is a good Father, and he gives us what we need, what is good for us, out of his goodness. He won't give to us a useless stone. And he certainly won't give us an evil snake. He gives us what we need to be sustained. Bread. I love the father-child analogy that Jesus dwells on here. How many parents know what a child needs versus what a child wants? Every year from the age of 4, I asked my parents for a Mr. Frosty. I have always wanted a Mr. Frosty. You know, there's little plastic machines, and you put ice in Mr. Frosty's belly, and you turn the handle, and out comes like a slush puppy. I asked my parents for a Mr. Frosty every year from the age of 4 until I was 15. Yeah, that's right. I asked my parents for a Mr. Frosty for 11 years. My parents' response during those 11 years, you don't need it. You'll never use it. It'll break really quickly. I thought Mr. Frosty was something I needed, bread. But my parents saw Mr. Frosty as a stone, useless. On my 15th birthday, I got a Mr. Frosty after 11 years, finally. So what happened with the Mr. Frosty? It sat unopened for ages. Then I opened it, looked at it, and put it on a shelf. And then weeks later, when my friends were around, we used it and we broke it on my first try. And so my parents were right. Funny that. What I saw as a need wasn't a need at all. My parents said, you don't need it, you'll never use it, and it'll break really quickly. I didn't need it. It took me ages to use it, and it broke on the first try. What I saw as bread was really a stone. What I saw as a need wasn't a need all along. And then I think about it. I think, how many hours of my life did I waste over 11 years asking my parents who loved me for something that was ultimately useless? Now, I know this is a really silly story, but one that I think underpins exactly what Jesus is saying here. God is a good father. A good father gives out of his goodness things that are good for us. We might think we know what's good for us, but God, our good father, always knows what's good for us. How many parents can identify with the fact that they don't give their child what they're literally begging for because they know it's not good for them? God is a good God. Goodness isn't something you add on to God. Goodness is part of who God is. He can't go against his own character, and so he can't and won't give us something that isn't good for us. I know many of us have unanswered prayers which we don't understand. And we can say things like, well, surely this is good, so why hasn't God done this? And the truth is, I don't know why. I have lots of stuff like that. But the question I always ask myself is, who knows what is good for me more? God or me? Do I trust God's goodness and his nature more than I trust my own fleshly ways? Does this mean, though, that I don't bring all my perceived needs before God? Of course not. I just don't have an expectation that God will do everything that I ask of him. I spend time with my loving good Father. I bring my heart, I share my heart, and I ask him to meet me where I need him to. I tell him that I trust him and that I trust in his goodness. I try and look out for where he has stepped in and he breaks through answering my prayers. I also ask God to show me if anything I've asked for is a snake or a stone. Sometimes he shows me these things and sometimes he doesn't. But sometimes I need to see these things as God sees them, and that will shape my prayers. Are we convinced something is bread when it's really a stone? Never ever think that we've got all the answers. Never forget, though, as well, that God's goodness, it doesn't fail. God's goodness never fails. His love never fails. And it's out of his love, who he is, and out of his goodness, which he always is, that our good Father gives and acts. The question is, will we trust in his goodness?